my right, you'll see our three great practitioners that are joining us today and who will be, and I'm actually going to do this so you can also see the names written down. So we've got Eirini, first Herakleion, and we've got here Andreas from MOSAIC, Patras, MOSAIC, yes. And Marilena from SheMakes FabLab. So the three of them will all spend about 5 minutes just introducing their own realities to us, and so that we understand what it is that they're actually doing. After which, these two people on my left will get into a couple of questions. So you all know them, but just in case you have forgotten the names, Lorenzo and Mikel. Have prepared a few questions. The idea is that this is going to be more of a conversation as well. And then towards the end, if there's a little bit of time left, we'll obviously open up to all of you for some more particular questions. But basically, just so you're aware, the main topics that we had talked about kind of covering are, and I forgot to open this because it's are one, about sustainability / public funding for all of the spaces. And then it's about the relationships with the local surroundings. Number 3 is about the social orientation / the community and how that kind of plays into it all. And the final and very big one is about the future. So what will come next? Yeah, so without further ado, I'll pass it over to Eirini first, who will introduce Comeet to us. And yes, we're just going to do this quickly. If I knew where it is, there we go.
Okay, hello from me. I'm Eirini from Comeet Creative Space Herakleion, Crete. I think that an interesting info for you about Comeet is that never existed the need or the expectation to be something specific, let's say a creative hub or a co-working space as we define them today. We were just a team of 7 friends, luckily we still are, that we had a huge problem 8 years before, and it was that everyone around us discussed about the economical profit. In fact, 5 years after the beginning of the economical crisis in Greece, anyone discussed about how we have to make money. So we are freelancers at CCIs. So anyone asked us why you didn't do something to earn money, why you don't try to take public fundings or European programs or anything else. And then we realized that it's not okay for us, because we can realize the value and the role of money in our life. Of course, we have to pay bills, and we pay them. But on the other side, we believed that it's not okay for us as part of society, because if anyone has the only, let's say, thought that have is how to make money, we can live better. So we decided to make a space because we wanted to work at the same space, and it's different from to want to work together. We didn't want to work together as a company. We wanted to be at the same space, and at the same time, we want to share this space with other experimental initiatives as us, because in fact, we wanted to make an experiment. So let's say our guidelines through us, through the 7 persons, was that financial profit. It was not our goal. Profit still was, of course, a goal, but in different perspectives. Also, and I will say a few of these in order to discuss them later. So Another guideline was that we wanted to try to be sustainable without external fundings, let's say public fundings, but in other ways. And I think that another guideline was that we didn't have a very specific, we didn't want to have a very specific social vision. Let's say that we didn't want to change anyone in any direction. The thought was that, okay, if this experiment has a success, then maybe we will inspire some people through our practice. We didn't want to lead anyone in any direction. So we will discuss it later. So we find a space, but also I think that's important to say that we didn't have money, of course. So we have to renovate it from the start. And this was the space. When we find it, and then we have to renovate it. So you can see all of us to make all the work.
How long did it take you to renovate it?
3 years.
3 years.
Yes, but we're starting to work inside. This kind of meetings with chips, of course, and beers. And finally, we make this.
Wow.
This is our space.
Looks very cool.
Thank you. So 8 years later, more than 300 events, talks, theaters, seminars, workshops, discussions, performances, music concerts, etc., and more than 90 co-workers. So, did we create a well-structured network or a co-working space or an incubator? I'm not sure. You will define it. You are the researcher, and I am a researcher doing a different sector, so I know that you will define what, for example, Comeet is. So I can say that we create something specific, but for sure, I can say that we co-shape the way that communication, collaboration, networking, and entertainment can be done in the city, because we realize through discussions that everyone can feel comfortable at Comeet at his own or her way and personality. And the other thing that for us is very, very, very important is the latest sentence that is amazing to experience, that someone feel so easy, relaxed, when he or she realizes that you don't want to make economical profit from he or she. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Eirini. This is really interesting and amazing work as well. So well done to you and all of your co-workers. So now we just very seamlessly move over to yours, but we haven't actually. Yes, there you go. Now that we talked about not wanting to make profit, we're going immediately at funding at MOSAIC.
No, not the whole presentation about funding.
There you go. You can just click here and this one. Or you can also actually do it with your
Okay.
So, hello from me, I'm Andreas. I'm from MOSAIC, Patras. It's in Peloponnese, Western Greece. The truth is that I had prepared a huge presentation for 5 minutes, but I will try to make a very long story very short. So, this is more or less our vision. MOSAIC is a social enterprise established in Patras in 2018. The main target for us was to support the creative and cultural industries in many ways. So our actions can be divided in these three main pillars. The first one is working with the public sector. The second one is working with the sector, the cultural and creative sector itself, in topics like management or co-producing, or in menu funding, extroversion, and so on. And our third pillar is training and capacity building, because from the very first day of MOSAIC, we saw that training was the thing that people, all the stakeholders of creative and cultural industries want more. They were sure that they need more skills, they need better skills, and they don't know how to make themselves more famous, let's say, or they don't know how to find funding, which is a very crucial point. This is our team. Not only, MOSAIC is not only the space, you will see the space in 1 minute, but we're also having international cooperation in 17 European countries through EU projects or other networks. What we have done so far is mapping the creative sector. It's actions like needs assessment, business incubation, entrepreneurship, capacity building, and some large-scale projects. You can see some of our activities, such as workshops, seminars, theater productions, some site-specific projects and installation. And in 2021, we decided in the middle of the pandemic, because actually we didn't have something else to do, it wouldn't work. So we decided to find a space, we decided to grow up and find a space not only for us, because we needed a larger office, we needed a better headquarters, but also for the community, for the sector. And the first thing we decided is where we wanted this space to be. So we chose, for our opinion, the most creative neighborhood in our city of Patras. The name is Mercato, is from the Greek, derives from the Italian word mercato, if I'm right, which means market, exactly. And why Mercato? Because it's a neighborhood between the old and the new city. Patras is divided, like in the old city from the Ottoman period and the new one. All the neighborhood had very well presented buildings, preserved buildings, and expanding network of pedestrian streets, traditional restaurants, a very important archaeological site from the Roman period, and lots of workshops of artists, architects, and all the craftsmen. For us, another very important point is that it is the only area of the city where the city plan, the new city, designed back in 1828, and it is the only neighborhood that remains exactly as the initial city plan was designed. So, some photos of the region, and this is the space. As I told you previously, we wanted a multifunctional space, not only our offices, but also a hub, an incubator, a meeting space, a media room, a space that can host workshops, seminars, and other actions. This is the main part of the space in different functions, book presentation, an exhibition. This is our media room. Well, some of the rest of the slides is about the topics that we are going to discuss. So maybe it's not the right time to tell the whole story, like how we are connected with the community, because I think we are about to discuss later on. So I will get back in the discussion, these slides, and to explain about this graffiti. Just for 1 minute, what we really want to do, to make the neighborhood, our neighborhood, Mercato, to become a real community, because we're not talking about the community. We're talking about people that they don't believe in the neighborhood's potential. They don't know, some of them, the potential. They know only their potential and not the potential of the others. So we will try to motivate them not only to feel as a community, but to introduce the neighborhood in the rest of the city. We have planned an annual festival, hopefully to be launched fall of 2023, but during 2023 in Greece, we are going to have 3 or 4 elections. So I'm not sure that it will be impossible. Yes, 4 at least, I'm afraid of. So maybe the real time will be the spring of 2024. So we will design a festival to showcase all the creative features of the neighborhood, street food, artists, the old craftsmen, and so on. And of course, we need the contribution of local partners. We have already talked with some of them. I have a huge questionnaire about the municipality of Patras and how they are going to help us, because I would like to discuss maybe this topic. And some other things that we have planned as a MOSAIC is an international capacity building scheme, cultural creative, to connect cultural creativity with social impact, and to design an incubation program for cultural and creative social enterprises, because only in Patras we have 50 social enterprises for the CCI sector. And they are, I think it's a huge number for Patras. And we want to connect with them. Topics about funding, we will also discuss them later on, because we have some public funding, but mainly from EU projects, not from the Greek side. And that's the campaign that it is running about our space and about how we are asking other people to come to MOSAIC and host their actions and their initiatives, dance or music lessons, networking, carnival parties, why not? Co-working and of course new startups. So that's all for now, and I will come back later on through the discussion.
There's going to be lots, I'm sure. I'm seeing Mikel, he doesn't stop writing, so there's going to be lots and lots of questions.
Because I didn't study.
So now we have Marilena, so tell us all about.
So hi all, I'm Marilena. I'm an architect and designer, and I'm an independent researcher, and I belong to these networks of SheMakes and Makedona that I will explain in further down. My first relationship with the lab started in 2011 with the FabLab of Barcelona, and it has never stopped, I think, from that time on. I was part of several initiatives in Athens of bottom-up maker spaces that unfortunately didn't make it through crisis, but there were a lot of lessons to learn from them for me. And then I moved on working as an architect, and I had the chance to design several co-working spaces, the Spaces brand in Athens and Bucharest. And from that point on, I moved as an independent researcher to belong, first of all, in the SheMakes network. It's a network consisting of 5 principal labs and 50 transfer labs and 50 ambassadors. I'm one of the ambassadors. And the core theme of SheMakes is to facilitate the position of femininities in the textile sector through education, learning paths and innovation services. The interesting part that I can go back to it during the discussion is that all these 20 labs are so different in the way they are getting funding, in which way they are offering services, in which way they are having a workforce for them. And they are all specific cases. And this map, you will find it online on the SheMakes on SheMakes online, and they have a profiling underneath. saying how they are funded, what kind of services they offer, and and the percentage of workers of depending on their gender, because it's a very gender-based agenda on SheMakes. So maybe that will be use for you, of use for you. And in the end, what we are building right now, it's a handbook in order for our work to be replicable. It's a program that's rounding up right now. It's 2 years that we've been developing it. So all the actions that we've run are anymore documented gradually. And people are invited and they are free to replicate this kind of knowledge and run it in their own spaces. And I won't get through more things so we can have time in the discussion. And the next Horizon program that I'm part of is Pop Machina, which is mostly focusing on maker movement and the circular economy. So we are building examples on 7 pilot cities. Well, I will return to the previous slide. So we have these examples of pilot cities that some of them, these makerspaces were already set. Some are being constructed right now through this funding. And the whole thing is how we can implement these exactly pillars, working on collaboration and urban planning and urban regeneration in order to make a closed loop of these specific neighborhoods and bringing communities and vulnerable groups in the makerspaces in order to have more business-oriented examples, while SheMakes is also offering other kind of services like educational skills or even empowerment. Pop Machina, I would say, is mostly oriented in building successful business examples. And this is maybe of interest during the discussion, is a way that through our research, we understood that many of the makerspaces are divided into different categories, depending on the services they offer in a circular economy example. So maybe we could go through it during the discussion. What's a great difference that we may just discuss right now is that it's very different to have a makerspace that's built like really bottom up, and they usually are called hacking spaces, and they are more community and collective based, and people are meeting through their own agenda. While on the other hand, you can have a mini factory, which means that you can collaborate with bigger industrial examples that they are maybe situated outside of the city, and you can maybe offer a kind of service that only through digital manufacturing can be done. And there are even in Athens many successful examples of this, that you are offering construction in smaller parts for very successful brands. For example, Comeet, if any of you are aware, is doing that through smaller maker spaces in Athens. And there's also an online platform. In fact, there are 2 online platforms. This one is the platform that you can get to know more of the 7 pilot cities, and all the services are offered through a tokenization system, which is also kind of interesting. And so everything and all the making examples can be replicable in different cities. While there is the open knowledge tool, where you can find many lectures and business-oriented classes, and many lectures that have to do about how you can build a community and keep it alive in a makerspace. So maybe that's for use of you. And for example, they have some how-tos, like when you want to design your own makerspace in a circular economy example, you have to define your percentage maybe on these 4 factors. You have to define which of these are kind of your own goal or would be more accessible to achieve as a goal in the ecosystem you are inside. And by making your own frame, you can understand what kind of machinery you're going to be needing. So you're going to define what's the amount of money you're going to be needing, etc. And that defines afterwards how you're going to be getting this kind of money, because there are several ways that you can get through that. And this is the pilot city example of the city of Piraeus. Greece is part of Pop Machina through 2 pilot cities. One is Thessaloniki, which is very business oriented, and they have a very active incubator. And the example of Piraeus, which is situated in this building up there. It's called Skip, and it was the first textile academy in Athens, established in the beginning of the 20th century. Anymore, it's a vocational school, housing more of 1,000 students in shifts. So I would say it's a pretty big community. And there is a whole project of urban regeneration, of connecting this building to through pedestrian streets to different points of interest in the neighborhood, and making the school a part of the open school initiative. That means that the open space of the school can be used from all citizens and not only by the students. It's a 400 square meters makerspace that's under construction right now, and that's why I don't have, unfortunately, photos of it. But it's very, I would say, textile oriented in order to continue the story of this historical building. And that's it from me.
Cool.
I don't know if we want to play music. Or
Yeah. How do you want to do this? Choose your favorite chair. So I think lots of interesting stuff there. Just to note, lots of differences between these spaces, which I think makes it even more interesting to kind of pull out all of the differences, but at the same time also the similarities, because obviously there are also similarities. So I'll just basically hand over to the two of you, just whoever wants to begin with the questions.
Okay, so I'm going to skip to, I have two questions, but I'm going to skip to the second one because I think it struck me more after listening to you, which is the part connected with community. And you have three different spaces, but all of three of you talk about community in many different ways. You were talking about, I mean, listening to Eirini and Connect, I was wondering, the question is for all of you the same, which is how you manage, how you build a community, how you build this sense of community, which is key in collaborative working spaces, of course. But you have a space where you have a core community and then expanded community in a physical way, connected by space. And to me, it caught my attention, are they two levels? How you manage the core versus the rest? Are there frictions there? Then we have a space that started as a community, I understand, and then got a space. And then you were talking about a second community, which is the local neighborhood community. Exactly. So are we talking about two different communities? It's two different orientations? Are you integrating in a different way? And then we have a European project, and then you have a virtual community with spaces that I understand that are not in, all members, such as you, might not be in one of these spaces. So you are kind of disconnected, and then at a European level. So for all of you, what is your way of approaching the community? What are the key elements to work with the community and difficulties, and how you envision those communities?
I start first to start because you were looking at me.
You asked.
So from our side, I would say that's a different way of building communities between the two programs I shared, and I'm not going to go to my personal experiences of previous labs, because these ones, at least I explained a bit the context of them. So SheMakes is a very strong and but also a network that is based on mobility. So if you go online and you check these maker spaces, they are all very different in a way. Some of them are traditional FabLabs. Other ones are maker spaces that they support also co-working conditions. Usually FabLabs, they don't have this aspect that much. And there are also labs in universities that they don't really allow making, and you make things in distributed other spaces of universities. So, okay, in the end, they are very different as a character, but what connects all these are electricity problems. That all people in this network, they have a very strong target, this empowering of femininities and the textile aspect and circular economy in the textile aspect and the innovation in the textile aspect. So In fact, SheMakes is a very, very strong network. People have been connecting and discussing like through years. It's connections that have been building like for more than 10 years, let's say. And even some of the makerspaces are even rural, and like in Iceland, for example, you can reach them only through half an hour of going through a car. But nevertheless, they are very strong nodes because they keep a knowledge and they offer, they don't keep it for themselves, a very specific kind of knowledge and a very specific kind of safety, because everybody's there very welcome. It's a very hard reality if you're a practitioner and a feminine practitioner in FabLabs. I don't know if any of you have experienced something like that, but it can be a very hard experience for any kind of femininities to be sometimes in these spaces, and SheMakes really makes a difference in that. So this community is really strong online and in real life. And also it has this aspect of bringing very young girls in the table. So this makes a feeding process in the network. So
it's purely virtual, or you meet sometimes? And
we really, no, we move all the time. For
community?
example, last year I was in the Center of Circular Design in the University of the Arts of London, and we did some workshops there with the students there and practitioners and innovators there in order to define agendas that have to do with their gender and how they have this idea of gender in their mind and how they associate with that, with our profession, I would say, for example, and we use tools like speculative design and world building ideas like fiction, this kind of tools, not even really making with our hands, in fact, in order to do this as a group. And while Pop Machina is more situated in real communities, I mean, in communities that have to do with some kilometers of the makerspaces, let's say, and they are focused more on vulnerable groups. So we have a strong connection with parts of the municipality that have to do with offering social services. So we also try to bring people that they wouldn't possibly come by themselves for several reasons. So that's our part of the community. I don't know if I answered.
No, but what I'm it's in the virtual. No, yeah, you did, but as we know,
I still haven't answered.
And probably engaging people in a virtual community, it's very difficult if you don't see each other, if you don't have a common purpose, if you don't get an incentive that I'm getting. So like, is just knowledge exchange? Is this emotional links? Is it like what is the
okay? In one part is we're driven by the same cause, and there's of course like this emotional way of approaching the subject. On the other hand, there's a very strong agenda. For example, monthly meetings online for recycling wool or whatever things, or there's, for example, this other example of a space very near Florence called Lorenzo, and they are making, for example, business branches so they can bring people together through that. So communities being built both online and offline, and it's also about learning and supporting, but also about offering the space to express yourself and understanding what's the issue in the profession. So in fact, it's a safe space, I would say, for us. That's what we're trying to build.
And we also include like all the people that are not part of the 7 projects, let's say. So like let's say like
there is a continuous feed. So there are 5 labs, and that was this whole thing with the networks. And if you notice it, there are like 5 specific labs. These labs are connected to some other labs. We as ambassadors are connected to several of the labs. So there is a continuous mobility scheme going on with many online meetings at the same time, many communal activities that have to do with designing new ideas through digital tools that we do, or breakout rooms that we discuss new ideas. So it demands much of our time, in fact, for it to be working properly. But the whole thing is that in the end, for many of us, we've agreed that it doesn't feel very much as work. In fact, it feels very much as just building a kind of relationship. And in the end, like 2 weeks ago, we met for a last focus group in Florence, and we agreed that many of us haven't met in person, but we feel like we've been knowing I don't know, for years. It's a continuous process, but it's demanding in a way.
So I guess what the particularity of the thing here is as well is one of, there's so many commonalities that those people that are part of SheMakes have, that kind of makes it more like the cohesion is just acquired by that. Whereas in other realities where we've got many different kinds of interests and different sorts of business ideas, it's just so much more complicated still. Whereas here you've got, as I said, like you've got an actual agenda as well. And I think that possibly makes it also easier, if you will, to kind of keep it online.
Yes,
possibly. So I think that's really interesting.
And that's exactly the agenda, in fact. So everything is aligned through that, but it can be every meeting can be divided in something that has to do one of these, for example, and there is a continuous. We never stop. Like there will continuously be an event, online, offline, physical meeting. I don't know, a paper, something that will keep the thing going in a way.
Maybe we can go with Eirini.
I guess with a completely different perspective, because it's a business space. So we believe that, let's say, community is two different directions. The one is that is a structure that we can observe. We see many people, and we can say that we can observe commonalities between them. But on the other side, let's say we believe that an active community is a structure in which someone wants to be part of it. So this is our opinion about how we manage different communities. It was and it is the most difficult part of all of this, because as I said before, in fact, we didn't want to make a community. In fact, we don't believe that we can shape a community as clear as we say. We believe that we can make a ground in which a community can arise. So the most difficult part is that regarding the community, the team of us, the 7, we made a decision that says that our scale is very small. So we have to make an experimentation here. And let's say that we will take decision only through discussions, never through voting, for example, because we believe that maybe is a way each one of us feel that have enough space and enough time and enough respect to he or she believes, etc. So for the most difficult part is to manage yourself on that, okay? In our collaboration with another community, let's say the people that rent, for example, an office, or the teams, the groups that come to us, and use the space for free, because there are they are experimental initiatives.
Sorry, all the people that come to work to your space, it's free, the use of your space?
No,
okay, sorry.
We rent offices and the space. Great. When an initiative, and this is our pillar, it's not logical in some direction, but it's our pillar. We rent offices and the space in initiatives that are not experimental. Let's say they don't starting now. Okay, if I am an entrepreneur and I have, for example, 8 years of experience, and I have shaped my work and I'm okay, So then I have to pay something in order to have the opportunity to give for free the space for groups that don't have this ability. But the difficult part is that based on the previous, let's say, opinion that I described, also we discuss with anyone who wants or to rent an office or to a microphone, to rent an office or to use the space for free. And what I mean, for example, we have packages, rent packages for offices, but we can realize that each one of us, it's a different story. We have, for example, a package that says that an office costs 120 euros per month. But if you come to us and say that, you know, it's too much for me, then we will make a discussion with you in order to understand what is your needs exactly. And finally, we don't have packages because we try to make it all the time, but we believe that our scale is our pillar and we have to do it. If we were a huge company, for example, I can realize that we can't do it. It's more difficult. But we have to do it because of our beliefs and our scale. So I think, I'm not sure that I covered you.
Do you also have like a constant turnover of people, or you kind of have also, let's say, a stable number of people?
We have a stable people who rent offices for many years, from the first year. And also we have too many digital nomads that are not stable, of course. And on the other side, we had also stable groups that use the space for free, but are groups that growing all the time. For example, one of them most beloved groups for anyone, not from us only, but for the city, is a group of musicians that they are jazz musicians. So the first years, I think that the second year came to us and tell us that, do you know something, jazz is improvisation. But in Herakleion, we can make jazz improvisation. We have to play the jazz that the most of the people want to listen. So we need a space to play jazz, real jazz, but we don't have the money to make it. And we said that you are the best, take the space and
free concerts.
Yes, make everything you want to do. Finally, this group, this team, the soprano player, I had to make much photos from them. Finally, 5 years of, and after I think more than 100 events, they create the first improv jazz festival in Herakleion. So we have groups that come, they try everything they wanted, and then they decide if they wanted to do it. If they have to give them the resources to go further. Or we have more stable groups, as for the soprano players, that is they're still use the space and growing.
And has there been like some problems with other groups? Maybe they actually have the financial stability and they can actually pay a certain amount of money, and maybe they feel like there could be like some inner contrast with people that are not paying, or that like.
No, because from the start, it's clear that we will make a discussion with anyone. We are not gods. We are not the state. We are not the people that will save the world. We are not. We We don't know the truth of the world. Okay, we will try. We will try to decide which of the groups, which of the people had more need to do something. So it's not something absolutely right or successful, but from the start, everyone knows that will face this that you described. That someone may pay 40 euros, for example, for 1 hour of use, and someone nothing. It's clear.
So I understand that we say that we have 3 levels. I don't know if community or not, for sure, the core group that you work in consensus, and then there is a second level of, I understand, not managed community, where you don't put effort into create it, let's all eat together with all the coworkers and stuff, but it's very natural. I don't know to what level it's that sense of community built or not, whenever it's not managed, which is very essential in our research, like managing the community, or does it work by itself or not? And then you have a third level of the local community of outsiders that use the space, that it's a kind of an impact that you have in the community, that also, I don't know if there is a sense of community built on that, of like, we are the user, like, in a social center, because it sounds like it's a very much social center, where people end up building a sense of, we are, that people, the users, end up building some kind of a sense of belonging to that social center. The jazz people know the whatever other group, or it's more
I think that you have to ask them. I don't know. I don't know if they feel that they belong. I can say that I'm sure that they feel comfortable. We can understand it.
okay.
So that they feel that they have the ground, or to shape their community, or to be part of a community, not forever, of course, because but I said before that we want to make things regarding communities a structure that in which someone wants to be part. You can't want to be part somewhere for for any time, forever. No one of us, I think.
Thank you, Eirini, and then we can go to Andreas.
Talking about the community, also. So we get even bigger with the community.
I would say paradigm, but I want to hear you.
Okay. So, as we said, there are 2 communities. Actually, there were 2 communities, because MOSAIC team, before the space, was a community. Now it's a company. So in terms of community, it does not exist. We are a company, we make profit. It's our main job for most of us. So the only community we're talking about is the neighborhood. The target group, let's say, is a neighborhood. I slightly agree and disagree at the same time with Eirini. Okay, of course, we are not gods, we are not going to save the world. But we have to propose a way in people that they deserve a better future, and maybe they have not the resources, they have not understood their potential, they have not, they don't know how to cooperate. So what we're trying to do is to motivate them. At first, to transform the neighborhood to a community, and in a second level, to make the community have a brand name, if it would be possible. So even for the future, for their sustainability, for their profit, but just to show you something, I think somewhere here. What we try to do is, when someone is in our space, we want to learn, not only know, not only us as MOSAIC, but also to get to know the neighborhood. So we were thinking of an easy way to narrate the story of the neighborhood of Mercato and to narrate what we are dreaming of the neighborhood's future. So we asked from street artists from Patras, who now lives in Bulgaria, to make for us these two graffitis, which dominate the space. Okay, and the elements of the graffiti is elements from the neighborhood. It's tools from the old craftsmen. There are elements of the folk architecture of the preserved buildings. Things, every tool, every item of this graffiti has its own story. So this graffiti, for us, was the best way to tell the story of Mercato, and to motivate our visitors to take a stroll to Mercato and see, to get to know, to eat in the traditional restaurant, to get to know the local products, or to get to an exhibition, and so on. And this is our idea: how can Mercato become a community? When the rest of the city discover the potential and persuade them that they have a future, because they are very afraid of the future. They believe that they nobody, not the municipality, not the state, takes care of them. And they think that there's no future when the old craftsmen leave, or when someday the restaurants will go to another neighborhood. And they believe that they have no future. And we want to make them think in a more creative way and more optimistic way to find a future.
And how they approach you actually, like people from the local community, like they know about your space.
Yes, of course. From the very first day, we invited them. We told them exactly what MOSAIC is and what we're trying to do. Some of them, I have to say that they were very, very fond of our idea and so on. Some of them thought that it was like another political promise. Okay, reacted as with the politicians. They thought that maybe it's something that will never be done. But even only 1 year later, they think to change their mind, because they're coming to MOSAIC with ideas. What do you say? I have an idea. We can make an exhibition. I invited a street artist to do something, do a mural or something else in the neighborhood. They are changing their mind, but the point is to change their mentality. That's difficult.
Because this community Mercato, it's since you open the space, but what about the artists or the organizations that were before, or who are not part of the district itself, but you work in the neighborhood, but you work with them, or you are involved in European projects? How do you reconcile, or that is not a community, and now you're only focused on the local neighborhood community?
In terms of a community, we're only talking with the neighborhood. Of course, we're cooperating with many artists or many theater groups or many other, but in other projects. In the case of Mercato, we want to persist on the people of the neighborhood.
Okay. And this connects in some way to local development in overall, let's say. So you actually jumped in the second question without knowing it, but yeah, it was a good connection to finish with you. And for this reason, I would like to ask you a bit more. You kind of already answered me regarding like the local people and how they interact with your space. But I would like to know also if you kind of can re-elaborate a bit more on what is the impact of your space on the, let's say, development of Patras, and also if you are like kind of addressing the classical like common challenges that places like Patras or like a bit more like peripheral places have. So like classic like brain drain, maybe many people like going abroad or to Athens or to bigger cities, or like lack of networks, lack of let's say, innovation capabilities in the place, and yeah, if your space is actively doing something to address these issues.
The truth is, we don't have so much time to do such, to take such initiatives. We are cooperating, we are in close cooperation with the university. Actually with two universities in the city, the Open University and the University of Patras. And they have asked if they can propose some ideas or some larger projects that we cannot manage alone as MOSAIC. Mainly from the brain drain or things like that, especially from young people that want to go to Athens and not stay in Patras. To be honest, I don't think that such initiatives can be a solution because it demands something more. It's not a motive for young people if he or she wants to go to Athens. Such initiatives are not able to keep them in Patras. I don't believe in such impact. Personally, I think that the real impact is for the people that stay in Patras, not to feel like being neglected and
escape in some way.
Or just useless or unlucky that they haven't left the city. To persuade them that there is a potential in the city, they are right with their decision to stay in the city, and we can, maybe, hopefully, we can help them to make another step, to make the next step. I would say that this target group would be more interesting for us.
Can I just throw in something there? Because you had mentioned before at some point the municipality as well, right? So, because these kinds of developing and developing the community, etc. It's also then somehow linked with how do you work with the municipality? Is that something you already do, or is that something that you're trying to find a way to?
No, we are not trying anymore. The truth is, we are not trying anymore. I mean, unfortunately, we have a municipality that doesn't want to cooperate with us in any way. Not because they're having a problem with us personally, I hope. But because of their mindset. They don't believe, the first problem with the municipality, they don't believe in social enterprise. They say that social enterprise is something like evil, something very bad. So they don't want to hear anything from us, from social enterprises, not only from MOSAIC, but from the others. There's also another problem, which is not only a problem of the municipality, but it is, I think it is serious. We're talking about cultural creativity and such actions, initiatives. People, at least in Greece, I think, they are not ready to accept that they can be companies for profit, dealing with culture. The main mentality is that when we have to do with culture, we are talking about non-profit legal personalities and people that culture for them is a hobby, not their main job. So we have this kind of problem. We cannot accept that creativity and supporting creative people, supporting culture can be an enterprise, can be a company. That is a problem of mentality, of course, but it's also the problem for us. It's a problem of funding, because according to the Greek legislation, at least, it's forbidden for them to.
You are a limited society.
We
are incorporated how? As a limited society?
We are a social enterprise. It's another legal personality, but they are dealing with us as every company for profit.
So there is a figure, but the municipality hasn't understood it yet. Okay.
They have proposed us. Many people have proposed us even from the Ministry of Culture and from the municipality to make a fake non-profit company. Great. With the same name, with the same initiative, with the same actions, just to be able to be funded
Did the same happen to you as well?
No, the opposite. We are accounting-wise, we are an absolutely profit company.
Money loving company.
Yes, yes, yes. We have a kind of company that for the state are absolutely.
Which is only for the space, no? Then you all are the 7 people. You are freelancers and stuff.
We are freelancers, yes, but as
Space.
Comeet space, and this is the only solution for us, because in order to combine all these different things, to have our basement as freelancers there, to give for free the space, and we realize that when you say that you give something for free, in fact, you say that it's something that normally has a price, but you give it for free. And this is the only solution for us, technically. Amazing.
I would like to add to
that all these more bottom-up approaches that you, I don't know, with friends, you're setting up a space and you're very open to ideas and you want to host a concert and you want to give spaces for rent and you want to, this nice craftsman does this. We could, every time this means like a huge load on you. You need to get some new legal papers and add also this as a service, and this means that you also need to do this fiscally, and then you're calling all these people who are supporting you, and these people are raising their prices every month because you're like, you're too demanding, you want also this service and the other service and the other, and it's very, very limiting. I mean, you're starting as one company, and then by adding services that you can offer, and this can be just, you know, a friend just selling some designs that he made it by hand. But if you want to be legal, it's so hard in this country. I'm sure in other countries in Europe this will flow a bit easier, but here it's just spending time on phone calls in order to change all the time your legal papers and the things you can offer, and this costs you. So in the end, it's like, do I really want to help these people, or do I really want to host this thing for free because I have to stay there for free, but tomorrow I'm going to be hosting a workshop from which I'm gaining some money and I need to be also rested in order to do that. So what I am in the end, I also have a life. So how do we do that? So these kind of projects are really, really complicated in Greece.
What I understand is that then what it's a complete failure is the creation of the social enterprise, because social enterprise, the figure, it's exactly for that, to reconcile the for profit somehow, but I want to have the, and you're saying it's not working either. It needs to be, because it's a lot of countries like in Spain, we are reivindicating such a figure in order to tackle that exact issue. So it seems like it's not the solution either. Well, why didn't you consider to become a social enterprise and you ended up being a limited society instead?
What?
Why did you not incorporate as a social enterprise if you are doing social work, but you are for profit?
To companies, to different companies.
No, just one.
Just one.
Just social enterprise.
Social enterprise is not something very new it's not something very old in Greece. We should make also.
Yes, okay.
So for example, when I had a similar space to Comeet in 2013, if I remember correctly, there were no social enterprises.
So that's your case.
Until now, we had all the NGOs and we had a very different structure.
Okay. Yes, it is something.
And you are not able to apply in all kinds of funding also. There are some limitations also in that, and you have limited possibilities of profit also because you're a social enterprise in some ways. So it's not a win-win thing, social enterprise.
So and this linking with the question about the money, because it's the perfect.
Yeah.
So what is what would your advice for spaces with a social component or a local impact component, whether you acknowledge it more in your mission or you do it more as a altruistic, I don't know how to call it in your way, but you're definitely having this impact. What would be your advice? Like, what is the way in order to collaborate with public institutions, don't incorporate this way, don't incorporate this way? What would be your advice for spaces, your experience?
I think no matter the legal personality, okay, the key phrase is not to wait for the state for public funding for Greek, at least talking about Greece, for Greek public funding. There are European projects, there are companies that in the context of corporate social responsibility and all that stuff, they are able to finance some initiatives.
Towards like the private or the European.
Exactly. I would choose between private sponsorships or private funding and EU projects, but not only EU projects, transnational projects, or not from the Greek, from the public, for the Greek state.
No one from the Greek state here.
No one
But at the same time,
I would love to have some.
maybe they're law firms soon, who knows? But because Eirini, you said, is that one of the reasons why you as a group kind of decided that you didn't want any, and is that purely public funding, like that applies to Greek public funding, or is that EU grants and any other kinds of funding too?
For us,
Yeah.
nothing. Self-funding, and let's say that we rent offices and the space, and the truth is that the space is sustainable by itself and for itself, not for us.
Yeah.
We don't
So
do anything with this.
Because you obviously are all freelancers, so you actually pay your own living through your other job.
Yes, and of course there were months that we didn't have to pay our bills in order to pay Comeet bills, but now we are all sustainable, us and Comeet also. I want to say that everything is okay. We wanted to make an experiment because I explained that which was our problem, that everyone says make money, take funding, everything is okay. But I think that when we discuss about spaces, we discuss at the same time about places. So I think that if someone wants to make an initiative, has to observe and see which other initiatives can find in this place. Because if everyone go with the same strategic, we have a problem. I think that the most important thing is to try to give a balance in the options and the kinds of the initiatives in order to exist creativity. If every one of us want to make a space in the same time, a town, with the same structure, with the same strategic, with the same funding, and economically wise, it's not okay, because finally we will live in the jungle, because the competition will go so high. So I think that we have to keep in mind that we have to give a balance on a system when we talk about spaces, so places.
I just wanted to add that there are several ways that you can make a space like that economically viable, let's say, and people can be very inventive in finding this kind of ways. For example, these 20 labs that I saw on the SheMakes page, they were already there. They were already okay and existing, and they have a multiplicity of ways of going by, from participating in Horizon or Interreg programs, for example, by offering their own services, by having memberships. But I mean, for example, one of them is officially right now a public vocation school, and they receive funding for their students to be part of the FabLab Academy. So I mean, by knowing very well the legislation, and for sure that you cannot do it by yourself, you need some counseling. And depending on the country you are trying to establish the initiative, you can find ways, and these ways should give you a funding that's not just one hit and run, or it doesn't just come by really small and not very regular amounts, like offering workshops, for example. You need, even an EU funding will be, I don't know, a big amount of money, but for 1 year or 2, you should find a way that you can feel you have a regular flow. And that will allow you also to be creative in your space, because if you're just working for it to be, to just surviving in a way, that means that your own goal will be on the side, and then in the end, you're gonna give up on the space. So it's from my personal experience.
Yeah, it's like how helpful is for your case, like it's kind of having this network of European colleagues, if you want, in some way, like how it's helpful to actually get to know like ways to get finances basically for your project.
Through examples, for sure. Okay, the makerspace that I demonstrated in Piraeus, it's not only EU funded, it's also funded from public money through different competitions, because it's a very big project. I mean, EU funding wouldn't even, it's not enough for the amount of work that it's supposedly to be done for it. But trying to have this many of examples that you can have as case studies can show you many ways that these kind of examples can be, let's say, able to survive and thrive. But the whole thing is what you really desire to. For me, that's why I saw this way of how you want to make your own makerspace, because it can be just a collaborative space. Maybe you want to do counseling, maybe you want to be an incubator, maybe you want to be a creative hub, maybe you want to host things, maybe you want to be the crafter and you just want other crafters for company and just making your life, I don't know, a bit more enjoyable. So if you don't know what you're doing, it's not very easy to understand how this is going to be successful economically. For me, there are many different ways of having a makerspace, a FabLab, a hackerspace, a creative hub, and it's mostly of what do you want to offer. All of these examples, they offer something different in the end. In SheMakes, they also have a common goal, so they meet for that goal. But as independent entities, they have completely different packages to offer, let's say.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I just wanted to agree very much with Marilena in the value of networking, because when, especially in Greece, that's at least my experience, when you start a company, you have to face bureaucracy, you have to invent ways for solving your problems, you have to seek funding and so on. But if from the very first days of the company, you try to be a member of an international or many more international networks, no matter what kind of company you have, the other members of the network, they are ready to share their experience, to share their resources. They have faced the same problems, maybe many years previously. So maybe it deserves, it's better to spend your time to find networks that are kind of in the same topic with your company, than to try to confront the Greek state and say the bureaucracy will kill me and things like that. Maybe an international network will solve your problems much more easily.
That's true. Colin was already ready for questions there. Discussants, the ones open for questions. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, no, let's say, go ahead, Kostas.
I'm just curious about the EU projects, when you might apply for certain projects, both like, I guess, examples of what they might be and how they might shape or actually change the functions of your spaces, for example.
I am not sure that I understood.
Okay.
Kostas, repeat, please.
So
It's a difficult hour.
you might apply for different European projects.
If I have applied as an entity, or for example,
As an entity,
yes,
that's what I understood from
Yeah.
what's been said. So as an entity, you might apply for European projects. So first, maybe an example or some examples of what these projects might be, and then also how, through applying for these projects, do they maybe change or like shape differently? Yeah, change, I guess, the actual functions of your spaces. So like, you know, you might want to do one thing, but then, you know, the money is coming from here, so you have to adapt and shift towards this.
Well, there are different ways of participating in this kind of programs. I will say I suppose you have also, for example, SheMakes started as 5 labs that they were already partners, so they were the ones initiating the program. So they are not participators, they're the one that they conceived the whole idea. The other 15 labs, they came through an open call and they received the funding that was aimed only for running the activities that would feed the handbook in the end. So they received an amount of money that let them be more active and create new communities in a way. While on the other hand, the other, for example, program that I am part of started through partners that had to do with municipalities and pilot cities, which means that firstly the pilot cities are entering and then they start initiating. So it's not about a person having an idea, it's about the municipality wanting to become part of a circular economy example. And I'm sure that every European program has a different way of incorporating this kind of initiatives. It's different if you are a partner, it's different if you are the ones initiating or writing the proposal, or there are open proposals all the time in the European Commission, and you can, if you have the experience, you can take part and maybe be one of the principal partners, for example, but maybe you, through networking possibly, and not through an open call, end up being someone that contributes. And by contributing can mean many, many things, offering knowledge, offering a space, offering management, offering communication strategies, offering skills, and that maybe can shift your focus as a space. Yes, but usually they prefer people that they know what they do. So for example, Lorenzo, that I gave as an example before, is very good in the business strategy. So in the SheMakes offered innovation and business counseling, and not, for example, upcycling of wool, because they are not that much of practitioners, for example. While EAC in Barcelona, which is a very crafty place, hosted a lot of workshops on biomaterials. So it's better to keep your focus if you want to be good at what you're doing, but sometimes opportunities come from many different places, so you can change hats possibly. I don't know from your personal experience.
I think, yes, I think that in EU projects, there is always a trap.
Oh,
okay.
Music.
You see, hopefully not. You see an open call, a lot of people, a lot of entities, okay, they see an open call, and no matter what is the topic of the open call, they want to apply just because there is funding.
Yeah.
So it is obvious that if you will be approved, you have to make a pivot in your target, because like MOSAIC, we are supporting creative and cultural industries. We can also apply in an open call about environment, about circular economy, about, I don't know, what else, about music. We are not artists, we are supporting artists. If we are approved in an EU project that has to do with music, we have to be musicians or to hire musicians, and we will not earn nothing more than the funding. I mean, we will have to change our target. The point is not to first take an EU project and then try to adapt. The point is, you know what is your company, you know what you want to do, what your partners you want to be, in which network you will wish to enter, to form a proposal that for you is okay, and of course it can make profit, but it's okay with your target, with the reason that you created a company, and then to apply. It is very natural that you will not be approved in your first, second, third, fourth, fifth application. Okay, the statistic says that if we have applied, if I'm right, the last 3 years, 45 EU projects.
45.
45. And we have been approved in 9, and I think they will have another good news, so 10. 10 out of 45. And the other people say that it's a great rate if we are approved in 1 out of 4 proposals.
You're the ones writing all 45, or you're also participating in other? No, a great amount of time.
We wrote about 10 of them.
Okay.
And we participate in the other 35, but it's still, there is a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
of course, we didn't.
And you need all the time to be part of this network that sometimes you
exactly.
are the ones
and to do all
starting
the meetings, so then you can. So that's the point. You can take EU projects, but we can take EU funding without changing, because in that case you should change every year, depending on the projects that you are you take.
So it depends on how, basically international, it depends on how much you're desperate for funding. If you find yourself in a situation where you're so desperate that you say yes to anything, then you might have to, change whatever you do. Otherwise, you're going to look for the funding that is adapted to the core of your work, or to something new you want to learn about, I think, right? That's also another really important possibility that comes out of those kinds of funding opportunities, that if you, as a space, want to learn something new, maybe that can be a reason why you participate in a project like this as well.
But there is an EU project, let's say, or any funding for any kind of company, for any idea. The key is to find the right network and the right way to work with them. Because even you don't succeed to an application, you will have a network of at least 5 or 6 partners that you can communicate. No matter of the results, you can work with them, you can build another proposal, you can take inspiration of them. So it's not only the goal of getting the funding, but just trying for the funding can be a great solution for lots of your problems.
Yeah, and so I think that's probably also something that Eirini in Thursdays, like in tomorrow's seminar, where it's about managing projects for the EC project, potentially some of those topics can come up as well. So yeah,
I'm very interested. No, I'm very interested in the one that is not involved in
anything. She just says, well, this is exactly the reason why we're not involved.
Blah blah blah. No, you're not gonna see me there.
At the edge of extinction.
This is why.
I totally agree, because I'm part of European project as freelancer, so
I
know.
Okay.
So
you know what
I know the story.
Yeah,
and I totally agree.
We still have a last
also.
question, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and it's about the future. That's
the future.
very hard one. It's more about like your vision of like what your space is, your job, like the vision. What are you going to actually bring for the local development, for the regional development, and in which way? Like, in some way, you already answered with like your idea about like the festivals you want to organize in the neighborhood, but I guess also like what are your dreams as well? Like just feel free to imagine your future, let's say.
And do you feel? I mean, I don't know, because we're in the rural peripheral spaces. Do you think that there is more space and more trend where more of these kind of spaces are opening up in similar localities or even smaller places, and it's a concept that it's more accepted, or you're still weird, unique spaces that are still hard to comprehend?
I believe that there is too many space. We want to see more initiatives, and there is space for that. And we want to see new initiatives. And for example, in Herakleion, too many spaces are new now. Regarding the future, is complicated for us because
We don't have so much time.
the truth is that we have decided that Comeet can't be a barrier for the development of any one of us. And in fact, all these years, too many of us moved to other cities or countries. So we have already decided that it's okay. All the time we will change the structure. And it works somehow because someone is in Thessaloniki now, Kanya, someone went to Dubai for 8 months. But in fact, we have a contract that ending in 2 years from now. So we have to make a decision regarding the space. And in fact, we discuss about something, about Comeet, not as a space. So this is a very creative period because we try to find now the commonalities of Comeet, which is its base. And if we had to keep some elements from this, but not in a space, and let's say in one space, because there are too many options. So I don't know about the future. I know that we are discussing it.
So I think though, then there's something potentially important to learn from SheMakes, you know? Like, I mean, that's sort of
many different labs and
virtual space.
Yes.
Well, from my side, I would say that I can't represent all these labs from SheMakes, but I'm sure that the amount of knowledge that is produced is there online, and we aspire to keep giving knowledge to young women, femininities that they want to learn and they want to enter in this kind of innovation in textiles and be empowered and have counseling on their business, etc. And all these people, they keep meeting even in other funded projects or other initiatives. It's a continuous like flowing of networks. While on the other hand, the Piraeus makerspace, it's something that really doesn't exactly depend on us because it's not going to be profit based. So it needs continuous funding. It's either going to be EU or Greek state funding. But if it doesn't have a funding, it will just close doors. And what we are really dreaming of this is to bring again this textile past in the present time of these students, because they don't have this department on textile and clothing for several years now in these vocational schools, and we really, as part of the community, will really enter the building and take part in whatever we're going to be organizing that has to do a lot with urban regeneration, of designing new things for the city, with materials that help in this whole circular economy idea that we have. The whole thing is really empowering all the citizens, that they really feel left out of this kind of neighborhoods. But we are in the very beginning, so this is a dream, and we really hope that we're going to break it down in smaller steps and be able to accomplish it. Let's see.
So the obvious answer is okay, more better network for MOSAIC, more profit or more projects, or the festival and the whole story with the community to be successful. But I think that if we face a problem with the CCI ecosystem in Greece, and we would dream to change, to solve it a little bit. There is an ecosystem with great potential, artists, creatives, and so on, but they don't know that they belong to the same ecosystem. So they don't know how to cooperate, why to cooperate. They don't know each other. I mean,
or sometimes they are competitive to each other.
Yes, that's more usual. But I would prefer someone to be competitive with you, but to know you.
Yes, true.
The problem we have is every artist, most of the artists, most of the creatives work alone. They don't act as members of a team. So they don't know to cooperate. And there's another problem. They do not travel a lot, not as tourists, but to travel to see how their problems are solved in another country, in another region, before 5 or 10 years. And not to think that there are huge difficulties. And that's why they have not succeeded their targets. So I would choose as our dream, let's say, to make people from the CCI ecosystem to travel more and to believe to their ecosystem, to their network.
And we already like actively doing like a kind of connection somewhere.
Exactly. Interesting.
Wow. This all sounds very, very exciting.
Very ambitious, yeah.
Thank you very much. I think that's what it's about as well, though, in the end. Like the future has to be a little bit ambitious, otherwise.
For sure.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, what's our energy level? I know in terms of time, we're actually like 7 minutes over. We're supposed to have I guess it's like walking tour, but I currently don't see any of the of our hosts here. So the question is, are there any questions that you still want to ask maybe to our 3 practitioners while we're still all here hoping that somebody will pick us up at some point?
The best question. So.
I mean, yeah, I think the best questions were taken. Really sorry about that. Or do you guys have any questions to this like group of amazing, brilliant young minds doing research? Hang on, sorry, I have to include
Too
these
many.
two.
Too many.
The question at the beginning, I think you said that you were writing the book about the psychology of spaces.
Yeah, address.
Exactly.
No. I said I was an active architect designing co-working spaces and especially the brand spaces. So I've done 6 of them.
Spaces of the EWG.
Of Regis, the spaces of Regis.
Yeah, the companies.
Yeah. It's I've done 3 in Athens and 3 in Athens, 2 in Bucharest.
And I have a question about this because
Yes.
2 years ago, the world was different. Also thinking about workplaces layout.
2 years ago, sorry, you said?
The world was different.
Was completely different about workplaces layout.
Yes.
Do you agree with it? And what can you tell me?
Okay, I have to admit that I was a designer for these things before the pandemic. I'm not an active architect for like 4 or 5 years now, but these I've done it like in 2 years in a row. I've done more than 5. I don't remember anymore. And also many other office spaces. I was very active in offices as an architect. And there was this whole idea of the open spaces and the collaborative spaces and no walls. And I'm sure anymore this is something that they are rethinking anymore. This made levels of productivity really go down. Okay, they make the hierarchy sometimes feel a bit less obvious in spaces, not the brand spaces. I mean, in the space, maybe the hierarchy was not that visible. Productivity levels were for sure lower. But in co-working spaces, open spaces are much more affordable, and also that was the case for the layouts. This kind of, I'm sure, like you are studying all this, so you know that in order for you to be a member of that, you have different prices in the way you're entering the space. So you're maybe just entering the lobby, and that's one price. You are entering the co-working space, it's a second price. You have a separate cubicle, it's a third price. So yes, going to the kitchen, another price. And I believe that anymore it's going to be a shift in offices. Privacy emerges again as a necessity, I believe. And how much like the offices are used in the places we are still going, I mean, to offices. And I'm not sure though if spaces have changed their agenda. In order to design for such a big brand, you are following very strict guidelines. that they are designed by central offices and they are distributed because spaces they have like hundreds across the world. And possibly I'm repeating information that you know, but if you are a part of spaces, let's say in Athens, you can enter any spaces around the world. And that's why they have a common layout. And I'm not sure if they are rethinking their layouts for any new spaces, but they have already so many and they are such big investments that they are for sure keeping the layouts they already have.
Yes, I was saying that the rethinking of the layouts specifically for co-working spaces, because spaces is not a co.
It's a co-working space. It depends. It depends on which kind of space you're gonna be using.
Flexible space for companies.
Yes, but you can get an individual personal table depending on the space you wanna be working in.
Not the community, the sense of community of a co-working space. These are, I mean, I know one of the managers and contacts.
It really depends on the spaces you're gonna be part of. They have, for example, spaces in the Netherlands that they have community things going on. They have community billboards that they are making people communicate with each other. And they are, for example, the spaces in Switzerland that they have people like dentists hiring places. And of course, they are not communicating at all. So I'm not sure this is a really controlled by spaces, the kind of this opera. In Greece, I would rather say that they are in between these kind of things because they have many of them and they are all different because they are using really old buildings that they have already layouts, strict layouts. So sometimes they have more open spaces or sometimes they have more closed spaces, but in the end, individual tables are the ones that they are popular because we don't have so much entrepreneurship going on right now. So I would say in the end, organically, they are co-working right now. They are not people like with 5 or 6 co-workers. There are not so many initiatives like that right now in Athens. So if you are the one studying many
I think
examples,
we're going into a discussion of how do we define co-working space, if that is a co-working space, if you're not a co-working space, if a space is a co-working space, and it can go into many different directions.
This is a discussion we are able to take when we walk as well, because now it's actually like, if I had a bell, I would now ring the bell, because thank you very much for this amazing session. Thank you so much for sharing, taking the time to share.